The digital world moves fast, but real growth comes from real conversations. This is e-Coffee with Experts, where marketers and founders share what's actually working in SEO, AI, and digital growth. Grab your coffee and fuel your mind as we chat with top minds about their wins, struggles, and lessons you won't find in a blog post. Brought to you by Digital Web Solutions, we bring real talk to help you grow your business, one episode at a time. Let's get started.
Hi everyone, I have a really special guest with me today, Victoria from Ugli Ventures. Victoria, you are a CMO now, CEO. You've been in marketing for so long, and I'm just really excited to have you on the show and share with us how to do B2B marketing properly in 2025 and how people can scale their marketing operations and to get a positive return. So let's start by introducing yourself and tell the world why you're awesome.
So my name, yes, is Victoria Hajjar. I am the founder and CEO at Ugli Ventures because business can be ugly sometimes, especially when it comes to sales and marketing. And what our company does is we provide marketing leaders for growth startups and scale-ups in the B2B space. And our mission really is to organize, systemize, and strategize businesses to help them build what I call scalable marketing machines. And why I think I'm awesome? Well, I think as a CMO and as a CEO, I think my passion for really putting the pieces together of entrepreneurship and really trying to show up as a leader in my business, I think has been something I'm really proud of. I think, part of the reason my business has been sustainable for so long is because I've built really good relationships and really great team that I've fostered through the years. And one of my biggest passions is teaching marketers how to be better marketers. And so with every client that I work with every person on my team, I'm really passionate about up-leveling marketers to become marketing leaders as well. And I think that's something that's unique to me and what I do because many folks, many agencies or many fractional executives, they kind of want to go in, they do their thing. And my motivation has always been to kind of put myself out of a job because I want to build sustainability within the companies that I work with. And oftentimes that means up-leveling their own team members. And so I'm really lucky to have created a business model where that is also possible. And so I work with many internal teams because clients come to me and they're like, oh, we've got, so-and-so's been working in our business for 10 years and now they're leading the marketing, but there's, as the CEO doesn't know much about marketing. So that person can only they can only develop as much as the person above them, right? And in growth companies, unlike corporate, you don't have that corporate ladder where there's always someone to learn from. So that's the long answer to who I am, what I do, and why I think I'm awesome.
You're so inspiring. I feel like I'm talking to someone I want to become. This is so cool. I have so many personal questions. You mentioned that Scalable Marketing Machine is something you promote and something you stand up for. You mentioned briefly about leadership, but could you expand more what Scalable Marketing Machine means to you in the B2B space?
Yeah. So, my career has been always built working hand in hand with founders and investors. And so in the beginning of my career, I really was like a lot of marketers out there. You're just trying to figure it out because I worked with founders, especially in the beginning, where they had a good marketing sense. They had good marketing instincts and they were good salesmen, right? But no one really was there to teach me how to do marketing. So in my days in the beginning of my career, I just was a lot of trial and error. And I found myself kind of being the leader of marketing for these smaller businesses with a lot on the line because I was accountable to the stakeholders at a very young age that was very inexperienced. So I did a lot of what I call trial by fire. I was just learning as I was going. And when I started, to be quite honest, it was a long time ago, maybe 2008 or 9. So Google and YouTube and all of those things were not as prevalent. And actually something that you'll really appreciate. I remember being in this leadership position as a marketer, so inexperienced and so fresh. And CEO was the big thing at that time. And I remember hiring someone, and I was living in Shanghai at the time. So I was in Asia, and I remember hiring someone in the US to do SEO for the company that I was working with. And I had no idea like whether what that person, like whether there was ROI, whether that I had no idea what they were doing. Like I just didn't understand. They were reporting to me. And I remember feeling so like helpless of needing to
Yeah.
really quantify what we're spending this money on. And I didn't understand really what she was doing. Right. And so that really has sent me on this like really this lifelong journey of understanding the pieces of marketing in order to be an effective leader. And it doesn't mean that you need to know everything about every piece of marketing, but you certainly need to know enough to be dangerous. And you need to know enough to be able to quantify whether your team members are being effective or not. And so that's been such a huge focus for me. So over the years, I was in a lot of situations because I went from Shanghai and then I worked for a UK company and it got moved to Dubai. So we moved, worked in the Middle East, worked in the US and Mexico. And I began to develop this repeatable process for companies I worked with, for the clients that I worked with, of answering this question: what needs to happen to build an effective ROI driven marketing program for a business?
Yeah.
And what I came up with was the Scalable Marketing Machine, which is a framework that has 4 parts. And every successful marketing program inside of the business needs to have clarity on the brand and who they serve. But beyond that, needs to have an effective and testable brand communication strategy. Because that's one thing that's always changing inside of a business. You could have your ideal client, but things happen in the world, in the economy, that's going to change what that customer needs to hear, or that prospect needs to hear in order to trust and convert, right? So nailing down what that brand communication strategy is, and then just constantly testing, iterating, and improving. The second piece of the puzzle is developing your marketing growth strategy, which is what I call the 24/7 marketing flywheel. And within this flywheel, it's a very well thought out client journey. And it has to be set up, this client journey, and then continuously audited to understand what's working, what's not working, and where are the growth opportunities. So that's a second system that you need within your marketing department. The third is your team strategy. Do we really have the right people on the bus to help execute the marketing growth strategy that we have put forth? And how are we measuring their success and evaluating their value to the company on a regular basis? And then the fourth and last piece of the Scalable Marketing Machine is the leadership piece. So do you have the systems in place to manage the brand communication strategy, the marketing growth strategy, to manage the people, to really make sure that we are sticking to our goals, that we are reaching the metrics that we need to reach in order to reach the business goals, right? How are we meeting regularly? What do our meeting agenda look like? What does our marketing scorecard look like? All of these 4 pieces need to be set up properly in order to have that foundation for growth in your marketing efforts. And I believe many times there's a lot of those pieces missing from the marketing team, the marketing department puzzle, because most people just go to execution. They just say, let me just execute, not really a lot of thought on building out a full kind of 24/7 marketing flywheel, just kind of haphazardly, like, executing different tactics for marketing. They're not quite sure whether things are working or not working because it's not properly being measured properly. And oftentimes you have a CEO or a founder that's managing a bunch of different people, executing a bunch of different things, and everyone's working in silos because you're not bringing everyone together as like one solid team. So these are a lot of mistakes I see being made by companies in this growth phase, because again, perhaps they're not at the revenue level where you have like a true full marketing department or true full sales department or HR department, because you're still in that growing phase. And so things are unclear. And that's where we see sometimes a lot of action and not a lot of results.
I see. Yeah. I think that's one of the best answers I've heard in a long time, because this was so actionable. I'm happy that you provided context so that we understand the whole journey, how you came up with the 4-step process for a scalable machine. My next question is about the flywheel.
Yeah. Yeah. The flywheel. Yeah.
Flywheel.
Yeah.
Is it always, in my mind, is that it's just one process that keep repeating? What does that process look like?
Okay. So this was like such an unlock. So again, as I was learning and growing as a marketer, I was haphazardly executing the things in marketing in the departments that I set up that I thought needed to happen. So I was like, oh, we need to do blogs and we need to do social, we have to be on social media. It wasn't until I did like a brief stint inside of a marketing agency and I got introduced to this idea of building out like a client journey, right? It's kind of like how to, standardizing, right? How do people first know about you and what you do, right? And how do we sort of warm them up and get them ready to buy? How do we sort of service them? How do we get testimonials and referrals and case studies so those happy customers help to like fill that journey again? So I love because many folks think of marketing, think about marketing funnels, right? That's what everyone's always saying, like the funnel, the funnel, the funnel. And with the funnels, like you're pouring people into the top and then they're just spilling out the bottom. And why I love the visual of the flywheel is everything you do in marketing, every single thing should be working to turn this flywheel. And you should not be executing anything kind of in a silo. Every single action you take, any creative idea should contribute to this flywheel. So there's 6 stages of the flywheel. It's aware, engage, nurture, invite, delight, and advocate. And so I actually have a resource, like a free resource that explains, like a little downloadable that explains each of these stages and gives you some ideas for what you could be doing at each one of these stages. So if you go to ugliventures.com, so it's UGLI.
I can link it down below as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will definitely link the downloadable in the description and
Perfect.
you guys should check it out.
Perfect.
Do you have this flywheel though for every channel?
So,
or is that like a collective method?
Right.
Like in this flywheel, we have both events, social, paid,
Right.
and email.
Okay. So the flywheel is invite, aware, engage, nurture, invite, delight, and advocate. I think about marketing as having 2 specific types of strategies. There's kind of a high level, like 10,000 foot view strategic flywheel, right? And then inside that strategic flywheel, you have smaller kind of tactical flywheels. Okay. So the strategic flywheel are, what are we doing for each one of these 6 stages? And within these 6 stages, let's look at like the awareness stage, for example, that very first stage. The question we're answering here is how are we getting in front of brand new audiences, right? And so we could be using SEO, right? And search. We could be using partnerships or leveraging other people's audiences, like having events or going to conferences, things like that. We could be running ads. So we have to determine, what are we doing for that specific stage? And then within that stage, you have a more tactical, little funnel, which is, okay, the ad that goes to a landing page, that goes to the checkout page, and if they buy or they don't buy, right? That's kind of one of these smaller sort of tactical flywheels that happen, so to speak. But they live within this larger system. The larger system is we need our awareness activities that we're doing. And it doesn't matter if it's events or SEO or whatever, needs to lead into some piece that is an engagement piece that gets us their email address, that gets us their contact information, right? And then that needs to lead into a nurture piece, which is oftentimes like an email ascension campaign or a nurture sequence once they kind of get into your email list, right? Then we need to put a system in place that is, promotions and some campaigns that we have planned throughout the year. That's the invite phase. So you can see how this is going, right? But individually and from a smaller, more practical perspective, yes, if you are running an ad that goes to a landing page, right? And where people buy or they don't buy, we're going to, if they do buy, we're going to put them on one track. If they don't buy, we're going to put them on another track. But it all is still within that larger system because they have to be aware, they have to be engaged, they have to be nurtured a little bit, right? Before we ask them to buy. And in the short term, that could be, how are we nurturing them on the landing page? What does the copy say? How are we building their trust, right? And then either they buy or don't buy. If they don't buy, then they have to stay in the nurture phase. They don't get out of it because they're not ready yet. So then we nurture them in a different way. We nurture them with our ongoing email program, or we nurture them because we're showing up with podcast episodes, or we're showing up with our social media content, right? So yes, in a sales, like oftentimes there is that, again, it's kind of like that funnel you can, so to speak, which is they see something, they get to a landing page and either they buy or don't buy. But most folks are not going to purchase in that moment. the majority of conversions are going to happen once that relationship has been built, once they know that you're legit. I mean, especially for B2B. So if you're looking at product, yes, oftentimes we have an ad for a t-shirt. People go to the landing page, either they want to buy the t-shirt or they don't want to buy the t-shirt.
Yeah, yeah.
But the thing is that even product, right? If they don't convert in that second, you know that you're getting promotion and cart sequences, you're seeing retargeting ads. That's all part of nurturing program, right? Awareness is meeting brand new people. And you always need a system that's going to get brand new people into your world. In the nurture phase, we're getting the people that already are in our world ready to buy with us. So we're moving them through that sales process where they're, problem aware, solution aware, the consideration phase. We want to create the content around that nurture that really moves them through the journey, right? And this is where we're building trust, we're building credibility, so they know that buying with us is the right choice to make. So I wish I had a visual here, but they are two systems that live within each other. Now, the problem that a lot of folks have is they're so wholly focused on these smaller funnels, and they're not really thinking in a flywheel way. So they're just saying, oh, I'm going to run ads to a landing page, and either people don't buy or they do buy.
Yeah.
And they spend a lot of money because they're always reaching new people, and they're not really doing anything with their email list.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe they're building an email list, but for the amount of businesses I know that are not sending regular email communications, it's always shocking to me because a lot of businesses are just so wholly focused on just getting new people in the door where there's huge missed opportunities for converting like these warmer leads. So the question is like, how are we working these warmer leads? How are we converting them? Furthermore, because the flywheel incorporates, again, aware, engage, nurture, invite, delight, and advocate. Delight is how are we servicing our existing clientele? Because there's often so much money left on the table to upsell, cross-sell our existing customers. And for the amount of businesses I go in that do not have systems in place for upselling and cross-selling existing customers, it's overwhelming. And there's so much money being left on the table. So, if you do, let's say an SEO company, right? So you have SEO where you're executing projects, right? Oftentimes for SEO, I don't see often people getting into like forever retainers. Oftentimes you at least start with a project, right? It's like a closed project. We're going to update your on-page SEO, or we're going to do link backs, and we're going to provide, this many link backs for this amount of money. And so the delight phase of the marketing flywheel is about how can we exceed the expectations when we're working with a client? How can we make them so happy? How can we surprise and delight them? And in that, we can also be, again, kind of promotions, campaigns that we can be doing to those clients that help them buy more than us with us, or help us serve them more deeply. And that's huge missed opportunity for a lot of businesses, right? We could be living in a world where, 50% of our sales come from repeat customers, right? And we don't have to pay so much to get new people to buy with us, because it's going to always be much more difficult to convert brand new people than converting people that already have worked with us, right?
Exactly. I also learned that from this flywheel. I think most businesses probably suffer at nurture. Like, I think most people we underestimate how well we can get new people in the door, but not really take care of them after that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking like paid ads, or even like SEO. As long as you rank number 1, 2, 3, you get new people.
Yeah.
But what happens after that is so tricky. And I think that's where like a lot of marketers get overwhelmed because, I myself, like I know I can reach out, I can do events. I know now, like if I go to an event, I get this many new people. But then what happens after that is it's a challenge.
It's a challenge. And a lot of times there's a lot that you could systemize with that. Like you could definitely drip out campaigns. You can definitely, again, a lot of it's not so difficult or overwhelming. I think the part is taking the time to just map out what that should look like. And you could have some automated messages that go out at certain points in the year that feel really tailored. Like they could be, right? As long as you have the context of where you met someone, right? Let's say you have an event, and then, 6 months after the event, you can have an automated message that is personalized, that again, it's automated, it's pre-written, but it's like, hey, remember when we met at this event? Like, I'm checking in. That could be set it and forget it, but that could be part of the scope of work of when you're mapping out the event. You also map out that follow-up, right? And then you set it up. But there's a lot of ways that technology and systems can help us with that nurture and that long-term relationship. But I think like more than ever, as marketers, we have to be really focused on relationship building. Like we have to be, every company, whether you're B2B or B2C, needs to think of themselves as essentially like building a brand and building community, because that's going to be the differentiator. As AI comes to do more and more, it's only the companies that are truly building a brand, because AI is going to be able to replace all of our jobs, all of our jobs. So only those brands that are building a really true brand and also community and have that connection with prospects, with clients, are going to be the ones that win. And so we need to start thinking about how can we do more, maybe of the less scalable stuff, to really build the relationship and that connection, especially when we think about partnerships and building our network. As founders and CEOs, that's irreplaceable. Like AI will not be able to replace that human connection. And oftentimes those referral networks, those partner networks are incredibly powerful channels for opening up those big opportunities, right?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing AI into the conversation, because I am very cautious as a marketing leader that I actually don't need that many people in the team. Like I genuinely don't. Like someone who does have a copywriting and design background and happens to go up to the leadership stage, I genuinely don't know if I need X many designers, X many copywriters and video editors as so compared to like a traditional marketing team.
No, and I don't think anyone's gonna, I think we're gonna see all of our teams shrinking a lot.
Yes, and especially marketing team, because I think that was a more simpler way to replace. I cannot see a science or some biology team
Yeah.
being replaced very easily, but the marketing team definitely is in a transforming stage, I would say. And other than not getting the flywheel right, systems and people right, are there other problems that CEOs make when it comes to B2B marketing?
I think if I were to say like what is the number one reason you don't have more leads or enough leads and revenue like to hit your goals, is I just think that a lot of B2B CEOs don't understand that you're just simply not getting in front of enough people. Like, and so, sometimes for B2B, you need to have a massively scalable awareness tactic going on that can work for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That needs to be part of your strategy. So practically, that looks like you either need to have an ad strategy or you have to have a cold outbound strategy, because those are the only two strategies that I believe you're actively you're doing sort of that interruption marketing, so to speak, right? But you're actively connecting with people that fit your ideal client profile, and it's constantly churning for you. And there's, of course, with technology, it never sleeps. Okay, I don't think that's the only way that you could be getting leads, but you need one way that you get leads that is a constant churn, right? SEO is a fabulous strategy as well that's constantly working for you, but it's more of an inbound approach, right? Because someone has to be searching for you in order for them to find you. Where the outbound strategy of the ads is definitely more active outbound approach. And I believe that both of them are really important. But if you don't have something that's constantly churning, you're going to be struggling to get leads. And a lot of B2Bs, they will rely wholly on a handful of conferences a year, or they have a couple, sales folks that are just like, trying to do some one-to-one networking. But we need a strategy that's working at scale constantly for you. So I would really say to any B2B business out there that's thinking I would like more leads, to consider, would ads work for what I'm doing? Because sometimes ads are not the best choice for B2B. And if ads are really not going to be where you're connecting with folks, then I would say a cold outbound strategy. So that could look like a cold email where you're just having a program that's connecting you to your ideal client and you're getting into their inbox. That could also look like having like a sales development representative, an SDR, that's working LinkedIn to try to just be a call setter for your sales team. There's tons of technology that can do that, or you hire someone that's going to be doing that, but that person has to be constantly and at volume connecting with people. Because again, the problem is often is that like if you're not at the lead volume and the sale volume you want, you're just not getting in front of people, and it's strictly a numbers game.
Yeah.
And we can't expect, I think too many folks expect like like organic traffic should just like be very high, because if you build it, they will come. And you know that as an SEO expert, you build it, they will not come. There's active things that need to go on in the background. And actually, this is, maybe I'm on a soapbox a little bit, but I think this is really the misconception about marketing for a lot of B2B CEOs and founders. There's a lot of back end operational work that goes on with managing these different channels. So for example, like social media, it's not enough to just have someone posting on social. You have to post excellent content. But if you want to grow on LinkedIn, for example, you need someone that's actually actively engaging on the platform. And what that means is commenting on you have a great following on LinkedIn, right?
Thank
Commenting, yeah, commenting on other people's posts. You have to actively be connecting with folks that are your prospects, like, and maxing those out, right? It's like 100 or 200 connections you can make per week, I believe. So it's like you need to be maxing out your connections. You need to be engaging with folks you need on other people's posts. You need to be answering comments. Like there's that back end work that needs to happen. And oftentimes, unless you have someone paying attention to these things, folks will kind of do what not that they're doing the minimum because they don't want to make the effort, but sometimes they simply don't know what are these operational back-end things that need to happen. I think SEO is a great example. Some folks think, I'll just write blogs and that's enough to like massively increase their organic traffic. But that's not the case, right? What are people doing? I mean, you know better. What are people doing to really increase their positioning on and their ranking for their website? They're doing backlinks, right? There's all sorts of stuff that you guys are doing to make sure that those pages rank. It's not just putting, blogs up, right? It's more than that.
Correct. Yes. I love how so one thing I would like to summarize and help the listeners as well is that you were really great at explaining higher level strategy, but also you're able to go micro and go into dig into like, okay, what needs to happen in order for these tactics and strategies to work. And I think a lot of, I haven't had good conversations with a lot of fractional CMOs because some of them would always look at the big strategy, but they would fail in my mind of going micro and actually analyzing what needs to happen to make those strategies work. And that's why I really appreciate you being on the show, because with the flywheel, the 4 steps, as well as going deep into each strategy, I think you have shown that you have a lot more better and very deep understanding of marketing in general to actually hold the fractional CMO / B2B marketer role in my mind. So I really appreciate that.
Well, let me tell you how that happened.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that happened for me was because, and this is one, we're talking about all the mistakes. It's like going to be the headline of this, all the mistakes. Another mistake though, is that let's say you're a growing business and you have people executing in marketing. I guess the first question is like, is there anyone on the marketing team that is responsible for reporting on the marketing numbers and can come to you with solutions when things aren't off base? So when things started to change for me is when I had to present my marketing scorecard to the stakeholders and to investors. And I tell you, I'm not a person that was naturally very numbers and data driven. So it was really, really scary for me to go in front of these like pale, male and stale 50, 60-year-old men that were investors that were sometimes very unkind, honestly, because they're just rough and, just,
totally get it.
You know what I'm talking about.
Horrible situation to be. I don't want to be in that situation.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
But from being in the very uncomfortable situation, it forced me to not only own the marketing data, right? Be able to explain what's happening with the marketing data. And if anything was off from what the goals were, I needed to come with an explanation and what exactly the next steps were. Now, here's the trick though. as a marketing leader, you do not have to know all of the answers on how to fix all of the pieces. This is where, for me, one of the most important things is building the right team. That's why that's the third piece of my scalable marketing machine equation. I used to get really discouraged because I was like, I'm not a web designer and an SEO expert and an expert on all of the social media platforms and a copywriter and a videographer. I'm only one person. So what I began to realize is that when you have all of the data pulled together and you have metrics and targets that make sense, like ones that you have co-created with the folks that are executing for those pieces of the marketing strategy, if they're not reaching their goals, you need to have team members that will give you answers on what are the next steps, how are we going to improve performance. You need to put it back onto the individual owners of that specific tactic, because it's impossible for one person to understand how to get perfect conversions on every single type of marketing strategy tactic. It's just not possible. It's not possible for me to keep pace with all ads, like SEO, all the things. In the beginning of my career, I thought I need to be the definitive expert on everything in order to lead the team. But that is impossible because the pace at which things change, it's just not possible. So what I always tell for marketers that want to be marketing leaders is that you need to know enough to be dangerous, and you need to know what success looks like. Meaning you need to have targets that are realistic. And if your team is not reaching the targets, you need to put it onto them because they're very specific experts in their field. You need to put it back to them on how to solve the problem. And if they can't solve the problem, then you have to find someone that can solve the problem. And this is where folks get stuck, because yes, we like our team, but if our team members can't get the results that we need, there's two options. We can get them support, like we get consultant or coach to help them, or we bring in someone that's more experienced. And as you grow, you're going to have to, either your team's skill set's going to have to grow and develop, or you may have to find team members that have more experience in getting the results in the thing that you get results in, that you need to get results in.
I love this. Yeah.
That's just practice.
The reason why I started a podcast for myself and a YouTube channel is just so that I can get the experience outside of somebody's permission to work somewhere. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that was really helpful for me to at least put together a small team. But now I found myself in a bigger team where I don't know anyone and I'm the new person. And it's a very uncomfortable situation to be in, because in my mind, I would fire like at least 3 people, but like, I can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's really hard. And now I'm at the stage where I can understand, like, oh my God, building my own team is actually really fun, but I can't do that in an established organization.
Yeah.
To start from scratch.
Well,
and
yeah.
So that's probably a problem I have. I do come from like a project manager background as well. I was a project manager for a year before I got this role. So for me to like think of like task level and deadline level, I'm okay with that. But like to put it on a next level, which is like strategy, I think that's where I struggle the most.
And so this is where, again, like, you don't have to have all the answers. It's this mentality of the who, not how. If you're familiar with that book, there's a book by Dan Sullivan named Who, Not How. And this I connect with so deeply because I'm always on the lookout for experts. So I have like a black book of experts across any discipline of marketing. So SEO folks, and now you guys are added to my little black book, but SEO, ads. And any time that I'm stuck with a client, right, or my team is stuck with a client, we always say, you know what? Let's reach into our little black book and let's get someone else's eyes on what's going on. And this could be my biggest trick that I have up my sleeve is I will pay people to do audits. So if I'm like, I don't really know what's going on here. It's not about someone scoping me for a project, because I don't know if I'm going to hire them or not. I don't know if I need to, switch out my team member. But if I pay someone for their time, I'll get someone on a call. Maybe they charge $100 to an hour phone call to get their eyes on something that's going on and to coach and to teach. That is so valuable. And that's how I've learned a lot about a lot of these pieces of marketing, because I'm learning alongside my team members, right? But we bring in folks to audit certain parts because ads are always changing. SEO is changing so much right now. Social's always changing. So it's really good to have a community of other marketers that are experts in different things that you are friends with, that you can get their eyeballs on things. And sometimes that person will get the job, like they'll get, them or their company will, you'll switch to them. Maybe your client can't afford them, but it's still valuable to have them get their eyeballs on what's going on, give their opinion, do that audit, because your team member will learn so much, you'll learn so much, and then you have someone that you could flip the business to if it makes sense financially as well as in the budget. But it's a collaborative thing. I mean, I've worked at companies, like I'll never forget this, and I've worked at some incredible companies with incredible founders that are multi-million-dollar founders, even billion-dollar unicorn founders I've worked with. And what I can tell you is that at a certain level, when you reach a certain level as a marketer, problems that you need to solve are not easily Googleable. Like sometimes you're at the cutting edge of what's going on. Like algorithms are changing. There's a bunch of the top level marketers out there, like we don't know what's going on. We also have to test and iterate and improve. Like a really good example of this is like Facebook ads. I remember there was like a very specific point in time. It was like around 2021 when it was like one of the first major iOS updates and all of the privacy.
Oh my goodness. No, I do. Yes, I
You
do
know what I'm
remember
saying?
that.
Right.
It was okay.
It was a lot. And I remember I was working for SaaS Academy, and that company had just reached $1 million in monthly recurring revenue. And I was the marketing director there, and the ads were failing. And honestly, we had the top minds in ads being like, what can we do here? And there wasn't an easy answer. And some of these things, like aside from the basics, once you get to the next level of marketing, it is so valuable to have people in your community that are also testing and iterating and improving, and other marketers to say, what's working for you now? Because things change at such a quick pace. So I don't want anyone out there that is a marketer, even CEO, looking at your team being like, oh, they just stink. They don't know what they're doing. The pace of marketing is so fast. So once you have the basic things really set up, and once you're kind of in that more advanced part of your business, again, things are going to work. They're going to stop working. It's a dance, and you constantly have to be learning and bringing in other thought partners to help you solve these problems.
Amazing. Okay, so I will keep track of the Black Book. I guess I indirectly started that with my podcast as well, because I was able to, foster like better connections with experts. And now I'm more courageous to ask for help and say like, guys, I just really need someone to look at this right now for my team. And I'm really fortunate to go to conferences to pick up some tips and stuff and I can provide it to my ads manager. But it is a continuous learning. And I also noticed that the more experience and exposure we have, the better context we also have. Like you can go up and say to like, guys, this is the testing period. So my job is to test what's not working and what's working.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times like smaller business owners who are like under maybe like a 500,000 yearly revenue, like they just really like focus on the immediate return. Like if I hire Victoria, I will make, 5 times more.
Yeah.
Immediately after month 1 or something like that, right? Like I still trying to avoid that type of mindset from myself, but also when somebody talks to me like that.
Yeah. Well, again, I think also I think there has to be like an expectation on the timing, because marketing is so much of so much of it is consistency. If you're really going to build loyalty, build community, those are things that do not happen in 1 month. That's about setting up a strategy and executing it for a long period of time in order for that to be truly valuable. And I think that's where you have to understand, there are going to be those quick jolts, those quick results sort of things that you can do, but they have to be coupled with the long-term things, the long-term investments, right?
Exactly. Well, before I let you go, I'd like you to talk about Ugli Ventures a little bit. How do you guys work? What happens when somebody, becomes a client for you?
Yes. Okay. So at Ugli Ventures, what's really exciting is we have 2 really unique and distinct ways that we work with clients. So first is we place fractional CMOs or fractional marketing directors inside of businesses. And when we do that, we walk at each client. So the first 90 days, we work in 90-day sprints. So the first 90 days is all about setting up these 4 pieces. So we build out the marketing, the brand communication strategy, the marketing growth strategy. So we build your 24/7 marketing flywheel. We build a budget, right, for the team, for the department based on your company's budget. We onboard or hire the right team if needed, or we up level the existing team as needed to execute the strategy. And then we put in all of the leadership pieces for leading your department for success. And after the first initial 90-day sprint, we stay on as a retainer, and we're your in-house, essentially your in-house marketing leader. We lead the team. So each client gets a strategist and also a project manager that helps to make sure that the team is performing and that the data is being filled out, that the data is being analyzed, all that stuff. So that's how we work as our fractional leaders work. What I also do that's really, really exciting is I have an accelerator program. And the accelerator program is intended for companies in a situation where they have an excellent person that is very loyal and growth minded in their marketing. But just like me when I was younger, you do not have a marketing director that really can up level and coach this person. So inside the accelerator, the first 90 days, we go through the 4 steps of building out the brand, the marketing growth strategy, the team, and all of those leadership systems. We do it with you. So it's not a done for you approach, it's a done with you approach. So inside the accelerator, the head of your marketing that needs to be up leveled and really step into the shoes of marketing leader, they get all of my systems, and I meet with my marketers 1 time per week. So every single week, every Friday, we have like a group consulting call where marketers come together. They can learn from each other, talk about what roadblocks are going on in their business. We do quarterly review and planning together. So we have like a retreat each quarter. And then we get to do a high level one-on-one 1 time per month with the founder, the CEO, and a core strategist to kind of give a status update to stakeholders on what's going on with the business. So it's really a way to get a fractional CMO into your business at a fraction of the price, because you have your marketing leader being up leveled, being coached and consulted with, but they're really executing and managing all of the marketing strategy. But then you still have a high level strategist that consults with you and sort of is your point person.
That's amazing.
That I love because, again, one of my deepest passions is up-leveling marketers, because I just see it as something that I would have loved when I was younger. And I think I would have had a lot less pain full time if I had someone really telling me what to do and guiding me on how this whole marketing thing works. So that's what I'm doing now to pay forward to the next generation of CMOs.
Okay. Okay. I'm super happy. I think our values are super aligned. As I said, like 2 years ago, I started Aspiring CMO with this mindset. Like, I wish I had someone to just tell me, like, this whole marketing game is not a series of lectures, but like for you to get your hands really dirty.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we should continue to talk offline
Yes,
for
perfect.
this stuff.
I love
But like, Victoria, if people would like to reach out to you, how can they find you?
Yes. So I spend most of my time on LinkedIn. So please find me on LinkedIn and connect with me. You can send me a DM. I'm Victoria Hajjar. And you can find out more about my company, about the accelerator program at ugliventures.com. That's ugly with an I. And I have a ton of free resources at ugliventures.com/resources. So I have a couple of different guides, including the one on how to build your sales-focused marketing strategy with your 24/7 marketing.
Amazing. Well, Victoria, thank you so much for joining the show. And I hope to meet you one day.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Thank you.